Ready to wreck our relationship? Just know, I won't hold back if you throw me down those stairs. The story of a complicated love. Before diving into my story, let me share a bit about myself. I'll be intentionally vague on many specifics. If you've ever worked in cybersecurity or for the government, you'll understand my hesitation to disclose too much. I graduated from high school in the late 2000s. I tried college, but it didn't work for me. So, as planned, I enlisted after earning my associate's degree. I joined the Navy, passed the qualifications for the Special Warfare Training Block during basic, and started training to become a SEAL. I ultimately didn't complete that journey, as it's incredibly tough, but I pivoted to SWCC, becoming what they call a dirty boat guy. SWCC operators are the ones you see in movies, swooping in at crucial moments on fast boats and providing cover fire to extract our troops from dangerous situations. Sometimes we teamed up with helicopter crews or manned the helos ourselves, but often, we were just patrolling riverways in Iraq, hoping for someone to engage us and break the monotony. That sounds cooler than it really was. Aside from mastering small watercraft, diving, and aircrew operations, I didn't get to engage in the action-packed SEAL missions. There were indeed things I did alongside a SEAL team, but I can't divulge those details. I didn't get to kick in doors, breach walls, or handle any team responsibilities. I was involved in only a handful of firefights. As a side note, many online special forces operators you see on platforms like YouTube are often former team or group members who embellish their stories. Their colleagues did most of the heavy lifting. They simply share tales from their perspectives to keep identities hidden. I left the boating life after 8 years due to an injury, spending the last 4 years of my 12-year career in special warfare focused on cyber operations. After retiring, I got my VA card and took a couple of semesters to prepare for cybersecurity certifications. Since early 2009, I've been in the private sector, even starting my own LLC. This story begins in early 2016. I had returned to my hometown, close to a major naval base, and I was on medical leave after my injury. This allowed me to reconnect with an old high school sweetheart, and we had been dating for several months. She was my best friend growing up, and I regrettably blew my chance to take her to junior prom. After graduation, I enlisted and we lost touch. Years later, when we reconnected, she had a lovely 3-year-old daughter, and Daddy was out of the picture. His loss, because the child was a gem. We grew close quickly, and after a few months, her daughter started calling me Daddy, which made my heart soar. I was head over heels for her mother. This rekindled romance took off like a rocket. For the first couple of months, we were inseparable. When we weren't enjoying playdates, we were acting like young lovers after putting her to bed, texting at work, and sharing funny memes on Facebook. Dorky, cheesy, lovey-dovey stuff that's embarrassing to admit as a guy in his 30s. But we were in love. Real love, something I had never experienced before. I had been shot at and stabbed. My injury was due to a gunshot wound, but nothing scared me more than this new love. However, complications soon arose in the form of her brother, some lanky, wannabe gangster who crashed on her futon about a month and a half into our relationship. This guy was a former tweaker who worked at the same target. When he started crashing due to low blood sugar, i.e. coming down from whatever he was using, she got him food, and suddenly, he felt indebted to her. He became her right-hand man, expecting her to treat him like family. She referred to him as brother and he called her sister, which made him uncle to her child. When he showed up in the middle of the night during our relationship, I knew it spelled trouble for me. This jobless, homeless idiot was moving in. Our friendship began on a rocky note. One night, I confronted him at gunpoint, asking why a grown man was in my girlfriend's apartment while we were in bed. The kid was between us, and they had no pets, so I figured whatever caused the noise wasn't supposed to be there. With recent break-ins in her complex, my response was justified. I didn't live there. I had my own studio near the base, but often stayed over for convenience and fun. The recent break-ins had made them feel safer with me around, so it was a win-win. I tried to placate the guy after holding a .45 in his face by lending him my PS3 and a spare TV, reasoning that he needed something to occupy his time instead of finding a job. Instead, he spent his days smoking on the balcony and playing video games. This guy acted like my girlfriend was his mother, expecting her to cook for him and do his laundry. He even asked if she could relace his sneakers because she did it better. At 23, he was a complete loser, essentially a live-in babysitter for the actual child when my girlfriend and I were at work. Multiple times, we came home to a messy kitchen and he would leave dirty dishes in the sink without flushing the toilet. For 4 months, it stayed like this. Eventually, I spent so much time there that we talked about getting an apartment together to avoid paying 2 leases. Of course, Mr. Freeloader wanted a spare room. We fought about it because 4 months in, he still had no job. This guy who boasted about being a successful drug dealer couldn't even move legal weed. He claimed to be a professional drift car driver, yet he nearly backed my car into a pole multiple times. Every time we argued, he would threaten me. "I'm going to kick your ass. If I can't do it myself, I have friends who can." I want to clarify, I was not a SEAL. I did not undergo the same rigorous training as those in special warfare. I had enough training to qualify, but what SEAL experience in BUD/S and their extensive supplementary training was beyond my track. I was trained in driving boats, flying helicopters, and jumping from planes, but the majority of my responsibilities involved partner force operations or escort missions. While I had trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and practiced various fighting styles, I wasn't a Rambo figure. But I could take this guy down with my bare hands if it came to that. I loved his sister and wanted to marry her and adopt her child, so I bit my tongue when he antagonized me. Weeks went by and I eventually tried to put my foot down. One night, as I was leaving, I took my PS3 and TV with me. He declared that I was banned from the apartment. Thankfully, my girlfriend put him in his place, reminding him it was her apartment and he needed to be respectful. Then, one fateful morning, I spent the night and was rushing out with her and the kid. I realized I had forgotten my wallet. As I turned back to retrieve it, I heard him say, "You're cleaning those dishes when you get back." Those dishes were the mess he had created, making late-night mac and cheese. I looked at him, then back at the dishes and finally said, "You're high. Clean them yourself, and don't ever tell me what to do again." I turned and left. About 6 or 7 steps down the stairwell, I heard the door swing open, and he shoved me down the stairs. I landed hard on my back, hitting my head on the concrete. My leg flared with pain. He jumped on me, bringing me back to the moment, and I began to retaliate. I fought through the pain, managed to get on top of him, and started hitting him. I split his lips, punched him in the eyes, and struck his throat. I was furious, and in that moment, I didn't care if I killed him. But she saved his life. Hearing the commotion, she came running in and found me on top of him, yelling at me to stop. I complied, but as soon as I did, he started spinning a narrative. "Sister, he threatened to kill me and attacked me." Luckily, she knew this was a lie, and even the neighbor's security camera confirmed it. However, she was understandably livid in the moment. I took her to work, dropped the child at daycare, and went to the base. I had to explain to my commanding officer how I ended up with bloody knuckles and a cold pack on my head. They offered to call the police, but I declined. My commanding officer insisted I report it, or he would place me back on medical leave, though he couldn't technically do that. I chose to avoid calling the police rather than risk losing my girlfriend over her brother. It turned out to be a mistake. Ultimately, her brother laid down an ultimatum: I leave, or he walks away from her and her daughter. To be fair, he had been the only male figure in her child's life since birth, and she didn't want to cause that kind of pain. So, I was the one who got the axe. Saying goodbye to the woman I loved was one thing, but saying goodbye to a crying child I had hoped to adopt? That was a whole other level of heartbreak. I went back to my place, packed up some toys and keepsakes they had left behind, and waited for a good moment to drop them off at her work. I was broken, but he wanted to kick me while I was down. His friends were as shady as he was. Soon after our breakup, they vandalized my car, cutting off my wheels, breaking my windows, and spray painting slurs on it. I was not Jewish, nor had I ever identified as anything he labeled me. What insurance didn't cover cost me $2,500 in repairs. 2 weeks later, someone attempted arson at my apartment. A masked individual threw a Molotov cocktail at my door. If it weren't for the functioning fire sprinklers, my apartment would have burned down. After this incident, the police were eager to dig deeper, but without usable prints, it went cold. A month passed without incident. My ex reached out regarding the fire, and I voiced my suspicions that her brother was behind it. She said she would confront him, and for a while, everything calmed down. However, after the police questioned him about the fire, he got fired from his job at a shoddy auto shop. One evening, after returning home from work, I stopped at the gym and picked up some groceries. When I walked into my apartment, I noticed footsteps coming down the stairs. Turning, I saw 4 masked individuals in hoodies approaching. I quickly dropped my groceries and slammed my door, but they wedged themselves inside. What followed took about 14 seconds. A neighbor had installed a security camera after the fire, so everything was recorded in real time. I kept a loaded pistol in a closet near the front door. Irresponsible, I know. In the scuffle, I managed to reach my gun and back away to create distance. As I raised my weapon, I heard someone shout, "Gun!" I didn't hesitate. I fired without intention to scare. I aimed for body shots: body, head. The first guy went down. The second caught 2 bullets from the first before I shot him in the forehead. The third guy froze and received 4 rounds. The fourth, who was halfway out the door, caught the remaining shots. Some might label my actions as murder, especially since the fourth guy tried to flee. But the police didn't see it that way. The investigation didn't lead to charges against me. The first 3 men didn't survive the encounter. The fourth, however, was my ex's brother. The bullets injured him in such a way that left him paralyzed from the waist down. He was given manslaughter charges for his friends' deaths and conspiracy charges relating to his attempted assault on me. In the aftermath, I would love to say I had a happy ending, that she took me back, we married, and I adopted her little girl. But that's not how it went. Within 24 hours, she declared she was scared of me, that I was a murderer. She cut off all contact, blocking me on social media and changing her number. It's been 8 years since that shooting, and I still haven't heard from her. I know she's doing well. Friends told me she got married in 2020 and had another child, which is great for her. As for me, my life took a different turn. I retired, worked in the private sector, and built my own cybersecurity consulting LLC. My partner of 3 years is supportive and kind, and we're even considering starting a family. But the most surprising comfort came recently when a Google alert notified me of my ex's brother's obituary. He had met an unfortunate end in prison, beaten badly by fellow inmates. While the obituary painted him in a loving light, I knew better. He had sown chaos and hurt in my life, but I found solace that it had finally caught up with him. 8 years later, life is good, and I'm grateful for the lessons learned along the way.